Right, Joel Gausten here from joelgausten.com. If you're watching this video when it's posted, Happy New Year. I'm glad you made it through and that you're watching this. And I'm really excited to start off my 2025 doing this with a tremendous guest I've wanted to chat with for a very long time. It's my great pleasure to welcome Bumblefoot. Hey man, how are you?
Good. How's it going?
It's going
Yeah.
okay, man. It's going okay. Roof over my head, the basics are taken care of. And, in these times, if you got those boxes checked off, you're ahead of the game, right?
Seriously.
Definitely, man. Well, I wanted to connect with you because you've got some exciting stuff happening. On the top of the list is your new album, your first solo album in quite a few years, called Bumblefoot Returns, comes out the 24th of January. And not only has it been a while since you've done an album under your own steam, under your own name, it's your first instrumental record, all instrumental record in 30 years.
Yeah.
So it's been a long time. So let's kind of start there, man. What led to your decision to go that route after so long?
Well, all my life, I've always done just like band stuff. I heard the Kiss Alive album when I was 5 years old, and that made me want to do what I'm doing. And I always imagined just being a singing guitar player or well, originally I wanted to be a drummer, but I was awful. So then I wanted to be a bass player, but I was too small. So then I became a guitarist, third choice. But to me, it didn't even matter. It was about the songs, and it was about being part of that team. That John Paul George Ringo, or Peter Ace Gene Paul. You know them by the first names, and those names mean something to you, and you know what they're bringing to the table and what it creates all together. I wanted something like that, and from the very beginning, that's always what I did. And I sang and I wrote songs and I played, to be part of the music of those songs, and I had a band. And then in 1995, when I put out my first album, I signed to a record label that was a guitar instrumental label. But they told me that they were making a subsidiary where they were going to do vocal music with singing. And so I signed. And I thought I was just going to keep doing what I'm doing and just doing vocal music, just doing rock songs with vocals. And then once I signed, they said, well, could you just do an instrumental album just to start things off? And it's like, that's not what we agreed to. Okay, so I did it in 1995, put out the album. And then since then, kind of stuck to my thing and just put out music that had vocals and rock music and everything that I envisioned as a 5-year-old. And I'm still just a 5-year-old. So once in a while, I would have an instrumental song that I would throw in the album, the same way Van Halen would have those like guitar songs in between the band songs. So do things like that. And I didn't do any full instrumental album since then, since that first one that I did, not by my choice even. But I'm happy with it, but, it wasn't my plan. So I'm in different bands through the years. Like I always had my own band, and then took a detour, joined a big famous band, did that for 8 years, and went back to doing my thing. And then collaborating with just people in my circle of friends, musician friends, and Sons of Apollo, Art of Anarchy, things like that. So I had all these bands, always continued doing my own thing. Was on tour with Sons of Apollo in early 2020. And, the doors closed, we all had to get home, and everyone's here. I'm in this chair constantly and just in the studio. And I had put out an instrumental single in 2019, one in 2020, as soon as I got back to this chair, and did some acoustic EPs with vocals. But then I just kind of got the itch. I was like, you know what? I should do another instrumental album. It's been 25 years. I should do one. And I started taking any ideas that have just been sitting in my head for years that just to start with. And started with that. I took an idea I had, a riff that I had from when I was 19 years old in like 1989, and said, I'm going to start with that. And there was this thing in five, it was like boom, 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 and just turned that into a song. And in 1989, that when I was 19, I made friends. I was in a guitar magazine and I got a nice write-up and my address was in there. And someone wrote to me, he's like, hi, my name is Guthrie. I'm a guitar player. I live in the UK. And here's my demo. I'd love for you to hear it. And we became pen pals and we would write each other as Guthrie Govan. And we were just two teenage kids that would send each other cassettes of just our demos and little songs we're working on and handwritten letters and transcriptions like, oh, you hear that crazy riff I did like 3 minutes in? So here's how I did that. It's like I, put this finger behind my ear and this one under my foot and whatever. And so we always stayed friends all these years. So it was a song from that time period. And I did picture in the song like a trade-off, like I take a solo, he takes a solo, I take one. So I asked him, I was like, hey, you want to play on this thing? And he did. So that was like one nice complete moment right there. And then I just started writing fresh songs on top of that and just wrote and wrote and wrote. And while I was doing that, I was writing with Art of Anarchy and writing with Derek Sherinian for what would be the Whom Gods Destroy debut album. And everything was coming together all at the same time. I had 3 albums being finished all at once. And it was a lot of work. So by 2023, my album was done. And it was June 2023. That's when the mixes that you hear on this thing, cassette, yes, cassette. That's when it was finished. But now the other 2 bands had record deals, and there were 8 other people dependent on me to help with business and to mix the albums and to all of that stuff. So rather than make 2 labels and 8 people wait, I just kind of put my stuff on hold, put progress on hold at that point, and finished up the mixes and did the videos and submitted everything to the label and took care of the business, and I'm doing, yeah. So by early 2024, both bands got the albums out, all the videos out, one did a short tour, and then I got back on with this thing and just, it's like, okay, let's get the team together for, the distribution, for making the new website, for making a web store, for making the music video, for making a video game. We have a video game. I'll show it to you. And like all of that stuff, finding the manufacturers, just everything. Making the 3D model of this guitar ship so that it could be used in the video game and the music video, and you don't have to redraw it every time you want it at a different angle. You could just tilt the 3D model and make a 2D render of it. And so all of that stuff. And that took a good long time. And that's it. So got the first single out December 6th. Of 2024, and the video game was supposed to come out with it, but days before, just like 3 days before, Apple flagged the game on the store and said, we need to give this additional review. So I didn't want to just put it out for Android and PC. I wanted it to be for everybody. So I'm waiting to release this game. It's a free game, just something fun so that people can enjoy the release of this album and just make it fun for everybody. So it's like an old school retro Space Invaders Galaxian, like one of those things. And it is fun. I suck at it, but let me show you this thing. All right. Let's see, is it loading? Oh, there it is. Okay. Let me flip the camera. Flip, 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 flip. There it is.
Nice.
So now, new game. You're that guy, the spaceship, the guitar ship, and you just hold it down and shoot. Get out. It's a space fight. Get the power ups. All right, more space bars. Get in there. Grab him. Oh, this guy's shooting at you. Gotta dodge him. Get in between the bolts. Good, got him. Get the. Shoot. Another one, you son of a. Get back. Oh, good, got him. Grab that. Oh, more of these guys. Good. While I'm getting shot at. This is not cool. Oh, wait. And then we got that nice aliens up there. Ah. All right. So, let me flip back. And so that is gonna
Great,
that.
great, man. And
I just
hey,
want to have fun with this stuff. So my first album was out on cassette. So I'm taking 30 years of evolution and growth and everything and putting it out beautiful vinyl. It's gonna be because that's what we love about vinyl. It was art. So double gatefold, 2 discs. Each one is in a full color sleeve with art on every side of it. And the second disc, side 4, it's a UV pressing, a clear with artwork on it. So the fourth side is art, 3 sides of music when you're playing. The third side, you're seeing the artwork from the other side, seeing like the spaceships moving around and everything. CD, the booklet, it's not a staple booklet. It opens up and unfolds into a big square of art on both sides. Cassette, I didn't open this yet, but it unravels till like it unfolds and folds and folds to like a thing like this long of just all art on both sides. And you have downloading and you have streaming, you have Shitify and all that stuff. You have the music video that you can watch, all this crazy animation stuff. And the funniest thing is if you slow down the video and watch everything going on, I made it just fast enough that you almost see the things that are flying through the air. But it's everything from like a block of Kerrygold butter and like just like random stuff that you won't see in there unless you slow down the video to catch all these things. And a video game.
I'm psyched for the physical release options. I mean, as much as I appreciate getting the digital promo, um, when I learned about what you were doing as far as the pressings, I was so excited because I'm a firm believer in physical product. I always have been. And that's the fundamental way to enjoy music. So kudos to you for putting so much effort into making that cool, you know?
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah. If you're going to do it, just go big.
Yeah, absolutely. And you went big too with some of the friends who are on this album. You know, you got Jerry from King's X, you mentioned Derek, Guthrie's on there, Steve Vai as well. And I gotta tell you, the way I listen to promos when they come in, I don't read the press release first. I put the album on because my thought is, whatever album it is, it's gonna tell me what it needs me to know. Then I'll go back and I'll read, the sales pitch, so to speak. But so I put this album on cold and I'm working away and it's playing. And when the track Once and Forever came on, I stopped and I went, that's Brian May. So first of all, you've got Brian May on your album, man, which is fantastic. I am really curious. I'm a huge Brian May fan. I don't play guitar, but I'm a drummer, but I'm kind of a frustrated guitarist, to be honest. But,
Me too.
Brian's one of those guys who, has that sort of, you can't really, at least from my experience, kind of pinpoint what it is about him, but he has that thing, undeniably. I saw him play at the Bowl 20 years ago, and it's still one of the greatest live moments I've ever experienced. Just him soloing, and he had like the Cosmos behind him, typical Brian May. And it was just extraordinary. So I got to ask you, because obviously you're a guitarist. Um, what do you think it is about Brian May? Whether it's technique, personality, how he expresses himself musically, that makes him so undeniably himself.
I mean, it's everything you just mentioned, but really the key word, honesty. He is very, in my opinion, like any of the people that we consider like the legendary inspirations, they're honest. They they truly bear their soul and they show you who they are. They give you their true spirit, the thing that makes them the person that they are. and they put that in the music, and there's no faking that.
Mm.
And when that really happens, you feel it and you know it, and it does something to you. It's almost like it adds to your spirit. He does that. Yeah. When I wrote that song, I didn't have a guest in mind or anything. I was just, this is a song. And as the song was coming together, I was like, this is starting to sound like, like it needs, like there's only one puzzle piece that would complete this. And yeah, so I wrote the song, and by the time the song was just about done, and I left a hole in it in this that one area, and I was like, I'm not gonna play in this spot. Like it's got like there's only one person that could make the song be what it's meant to be. And I asked him, and he did it. Yeah. And it was the same, like even the song Monstruoso. Like I picture like the old 60s, 70s monster movies, Mothra and Gamera and Rodan and Godzilla. And I pictured one of them, like just the voice of that dubstep, thing in that song. And then when it kicks back in, it needed a monster alien guitar person to do it, and I didn't feel like I was the one to do it. And there's only one person that could make a guitar sound like it's from another planet, and that's Steve Vai. And I asked him, and he did it. Yeah.
Right. I mean, the results of these requests are phenomenal. The entire record's great. It's one of those records I appreciate because I know I'm going to be hearing new things every time I listen to it, probably forever, and I like albums like that. There's so much to this thing, multi-layered and the songs vary and it's in terms of genre, it's very difficult to pin it down and I love that. There's so much going on with this thing.
I think of it like a bunch of photographs from a time period in your life, where
Mm,
each song is like a photograph. If you're going to take a photo album, I'm thinking old school still. It's like, hey, here was my summer of whatever. It's like, and you look through, and you're in all different places, doing all different things, all different moments with different vibes to them. And to me, that's what I like to do when I do my own albums. It's like I want to show you all the places I've been, all the things I experienced, and all of that stuff. And each one's going to be a little bit different, but you could tell it's still the same person in the photos and all.
right.
But different inspirations and different experiences and just different feelings, just everything that I live and put into it. And that's, I think most bands, they kind of together, they form a unique sound and they keep that sound and they don't really stray very far from the sound. And, that's when a band has a sound, AC/DC.
Right.
But when it comes to my own solo stuff, I like it to be full of surprises. I like it to show every aspect of my personality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So that's what I put in there. And yeah, I wanted to take you on the full ride and feel like you've gotten a taste of everything. So yeah. And it's
I
not
gotta
even my
get that
intention to do
cassette,
that.
man. I gotta get the cassette. The vinyl sounds
Right?
good, but you keep showing that cassette.
Yeah, it's just fun to hold my hand because I haven't held a cassette of my music in like it's been like 30 years, yeah. So I had to do it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's that's amazing. Um, you mentioned a couple minutes ago about a famous band you were a part of for 8 years. I would have to assume everyone watching us knows that band, but for the few who may not know who we're referring to, that is, of course, Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
You were in the band for close to a decade. You're on Chinese Democracy. You did the great Vegas residency, which I attended the first night. Uh,
Oh, which one? 2012 one?
yeah,
Because we did the second in 2014. Cool, you were there opening night.
yeah,
Nice.
opening night. Yeah, yeah.
Very cool.
Great era for that band. I've always been a huge Guns fan. I wanted to dive into that for a minute because I know during your tenure in the group, you guys played obviously massive shows. I think some of those festival numbers were like 150,000 at a clip. I
Yeah.
mean, I have friends who play arenas, but that is like a whole different thing. So I'm really curious because I've talked to guys who do the arena thing, and some of them love it because they're like, oh, people are far away. They're not like this when you're playing a club. I'm more comfortable. There are other people I know who do that, but get nervous because there's so many people. Where do you fall in that philosophically? Because you played, I mean, 150,000 people, that's not a club gig, man. That's a whole other planet. Could be a planet.
It's a lot of people. Uh, my preference is those clubs where you're face to face, where you smell each other. Then you're real, then you're really in it, you know? And I still do some arenas once in a while, still do some festivals once in a while. You know, Sons of Apollo, we did Hellfest, played an arena with Brian May in Armenia, like a couple of years ago for the Starmus Festival, which is this incredible festival, which makes me so glad I became a musician. This one festival. It's a combination of astrophysics and music.
Mm.
So they have during the day all these genius astrophysicists giving lectures, and then in the evening we entertain them all and put on a concert. So we play this big arena, and yeah, did a lot of playing on that one. And then we did the Starmus Festival again in Bratislava, Slovakia, May of last year. And in April, we're going to do the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. We're going to play that. And then the end of April, we're going to do it again at the Canary Islands. We're going to play. Yeah. And it's my favorite thing. Like, when I started out, I just wanted to be like Kiss. But now, where I've had a long life of this stuff, the one thing that makes me feel good about being a musician is playing this festival, even if I got to play it once, because my initial love as a kid was astrophysics, cosmology, astronomy. I was just, yeah, and I still am. If I wasn't doing music, I would be involved in that somehow. It's, I don't have words. I can't even talk about it. I don't have words. It's everything. It really is. And literally, it's everything. It's us. It is what the dust we are made of
Hmm.
is from the universe and the space in between those particles of dust, the unknown 95% of all things, including us, that we don't know what it is. That's the universe. Like what? Don't get me started. I'll be here for an hour talking about gluons and muons and neutrinos and is consciousness part of the fabric of dark matter, and we'll get into all kinds of heavy shit. So, okay, back to the album. Yeah, so definitely I am doing those festivals makes me really happy to be a musician. It does. Because so many times in life, as a musician, you question, it's like, where has this taken me? And what am I doing? And there's a lot of question in, was this the right choice for my life? Because, look, there's very few guarantees at the end of that musical life. Yeah, it's very volatile. So it's a daring, bold life choice to make, to immerse yourself completely in it. The things that make me glad I was a musician is doing that festival, the experience that I wouldn't have had probably otherwise. I don't think about the big shows, the big like playing for 150,000 people. That's not what makes me say, yeah, I'm so glad I did this.
Mm.
It's having dinner with Kip Thorne, like things like that. Those are the things that make me feel like like I don't know. It's hard to even talk about. That when somebody tells you that your music really made a difference in their life, if they were depressed, if they were thinking about taking that to a bad place, and your albums were medication for them in some way, that stuff, when you get that, it's like, okay, this was not a wasted life. But when it does come to doing those huge shows compared to doing something one on one or one on 100 or whatever it is, I do like the personal stuff where you can just hand someone a guitar pick that you were just using. Stuff where you smack each other's hands, when you're right in each other's faces. That gritty, you're really there. You're part of this one thing. There's no separation. There's not this big moat where the photographers are and this big gate, and then these tiny little heads that turn into this brownish horizon. I mean, it's an interesting thing, and it's good to experience that at least once. But that is not. Doing that reminded me of when William Shatner finally went to space. He finally got to go to outer space. And instead of being like, this is it, this is incredible, he was like, fuck, everything is back down there on Earth. There's nothing out here. This is emptiness. And I would find that playing a big stage, when I don't have a personal connection, I would almost feel two-dimensional, like there's a sense of emptiness. Because, I don't know, there's something when you're not elbow to elbow and face to face. Like, picture if you were in the crowd and every person was that far away from you. Would you feel like you're in the crowd? It's almost the same kind of thing. So that's what surprised me about doing those big shows, is I almost felt more alone at the big shows than I did at the little ones. And that's just me personally. It's not that I dislike those shows. I'm not going to say no to one. In fact, January 13th, I was supposed to be playing for 85,000 people in Jakarta, Indonesia, but they had to move the show. It was going to be this all-star show with this wonderful Indonesian band. I've been friends with a couple of the guys for a few years. Phenomenal band called Dewa 19. And the show was going to be me, Derek, and Dino from Whom Gods Destroy. And it was going to be Billy and Eric from Mr. Big. And Billy, of course, from Sons of Apollo as well, we did. And Nuno and Gary from Extreme, and John Wetton.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And we were all like the guests with this band, and we were going to do this huge stadium show, and then at the last minute, they had to fucking move the thing. So like those shows still happen. But even if they didn't, think of it like climbing a mountain. All right, got top of that mountain. Now I'm back down to earth. And nothing takes it away. It's like, did it. Now what? What's for dinner?
Right.
Yeah. And the thing is, that's not going to be what I care about, what I remember most about my life or being a musician. It's really for me personally, it's the personal differences that you make for people. It's students that I taught that went on to do great stuff musically. It's that random person that wrote you that letter that said, thank you for helping me through a hard time by telling your story of your hard time and having the words that I didn't know how to say and knowing that I wasn't alone in that experience. It's that shit. It's knowing that, all right, I did the best I could do with who I am at this moment and gave my best. That I can live with. And that this may be around once I'm gone. And at least I've left something to this world that I hope some people can enjoy. Whether it's even just one person or if it's a million people, that's not up to me. I have no say in that. The only thing I could do is just try and make best music I could make, the most genuine, so that when people listen to it, they do get that thing we just talked about before. They feel like they're getting something honest and something real.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely, man. On the subject of legacy and how people are remembered, about a year ago, yeah, it would have been about a year ago because it was the anniversary of John Wetton's passing. And what I did was on my website, I wrote a really deep dive into John Wetton's solo career, all of his solo records. And of course, for the viewer, I'm referring to John Wetton from Asia, who passed on a few years ago. And in doing that writing project, I knew this already, but I really understood what an extraordinary, not only musician, but vocalist and just talent that graced us with these great songs and these great albums. I mention that because you, of course, did a stint in Asia, where you were fronting the band after John passed. And I don't have to tell you, take a song like "The Smile Was Left to Your Eyes." Vocally, I mean, talk about just humanity coming out of someone's body when they sing that song. Um, and, John was a great singer. Not everyone can do what John did, but I've seen the videos, man. I think you did an extraordinary job in honoring him and, of course, honoring the band during your time in it. But I do have to ask you, having lived with that material and being so intimate yourself, having to step into that role, what do you think defined John Wetton as a musician and as a singer?
To start with, UK.
Mm.
If you want to see what a motherfucker he was, of a musician and a singer, and he was delivering. In the Dead of Night, that whole album, yeah, Danger Money, just, yeah, that was the first thing, that might be the first thing I heard of him. I mean, I did, no, actually, it was the same time as Asia. Asia had just come out,
Mhm.
first album, and of course, everybody knew, it was all over the radio, and Asia was a huge, it was everywhere. It was fantastic shit. And just the lineup of that band, just so much credibility to everybody involved. But it was around that time that I also got to hear UK, which has been a huge influence on Sons of Apollo and Whom Gods Destroy as well. So when I think of John Wetton, first off, let's talk about his vocals. When people think of a great vocalist, they're gonna think of how high a note he can hit and stuff like that. He had a range to him, and I had to relearn how to sing in order to fill that spot. I realized very quickly, because I was always more of like an Iron Maiden type singer.
Mhm.
High range, big vibrato, brassy tone. But him, he had this like full chesty, breathy tone, barely any vibrato. He would just hit a note and he would open up like the things that would resonate with him were like e's and oohs, not the bright vowels like ah. So just like for singer talk, like it's a lot easier to go ah than it is to go like loudly, full voice. Ee. It just doesn't come out. But him, he would do that stuff and with no vibrato, not given the continuous little pushes of air. Like he was just, you don't realize what a powerhouse he was until you try to sing the stuff.
Yeah.
So when I was originally going to just play guitar for it, and their singer, turns out he couldn't do it. So the guys in the band, it was like Life Cereal with Mikey. Give it to Mikey. And so they said, why don't you sing it? You could sing. And I was like, I don't want to replace a vital member of a band and be the replacement guy ever a fucking again in my life. But I was like, okay, I'll do it. So first thing, I just started diving into Steve Howe's guitar stuff. And I knew a lot of the songs already. But I was researching old interviews and seeing what he used for gear and trying to see if I could get something similar to his tone and stuff like that. And And I started watching videos of them live from their very first tour to their very most recent stuff they did, just to see how they approach songs live and just what they sounded like and just to get a feel for it and really just start living Asia.
Mm.
And then I started, just downloading all the lyrics. And it's like, how am I going to memorize these? I am terrible at memorizing lyrics. And then realizing it's like, wait a minute, you have one human being with one brain playing guitar, and you have another human being with a different brain that's singing the stuff that also played bass. So those two things link together, but these two things don't. So coordinating so that I can do both and kind of separating my brain. And I had two pieces of gear on the floor. One where I'm changing guitar sounds with my left foot, and one where I'm changing vocal patches to add harmonies and reverbs and things with my right foot, and doing the two different parts that don't necessarily go together. But the main issue was my voice did not sound like John Wetton's. And I realized that if I don't sound like him, if I have a different vocal tone, that would be like singing a different melody. It would be like singing different words. People came there to reminisce, to be taken back to 1980 something. And if I can't accomplish that, I'm gonna fail. So I stopped, I just changed my brain. I was like, okay, I no longer know how to sing. I'm starting from scratch. And I spent 8 hours a day, every day, without a single break for 2 months, changing the way I sang and figuring out how to comfortably resonate those high like for the end of no, not in this world, no, not in the next. Like that whole thing where he says wildest dreams. He's holding dreams like figuring out what not to push, like what and how to be able to just be this tube that just lets the hopefully spirit of John Wetton just flow out of me without even trying. So it was this whole physical thing of figuring out how to shape everything internally and make that my default go-to thing when I'm staring at a few thousand people and shitting my pants. And it's like, okay, I gotta play these guitar parts and change the patches while playing this other person's vocal parts and sound like that person while changing this and make it look comfortable and effortless. So I just, every day for 8 hours until I was raw, practiced and would only sing like that until it became my voice. And every show before we went on stage, I sang the entire set list one time through to make sure that everything was in my head and everything was comfortable. So every show was my second performance of, yeah, and just made sure I felt like I had such an obligation to the fans, to his family. They were there, to the band, to everybody in the Asia world, to do everything possible to make them not even think of me, but to celebrate his life, his legacy, everything that he created. And I did my best to just pay tribute. That was my goal. It wasn't like, I'm the front man of Asia and I'm gonna do my thing and no. It was about getting people to feel that love, that appreciation, that sense of tribute, that celebration for Asia and John Wetton. And the hardest fucking thing was to sing Smile Has Left Your Eyes, because they would show this big video on the screen behind me and I knew what was on that video, all the things of him. And by the end of that song, I felt like too choked up. I couldn't even sing the last note steady. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, talk about Talk about an eclectic journey you've had, man. I'm about to make it even more eclectic because, as you know, in a weird way, we have a band in common because I
We
was the
do.
drummer for the Undead for about 10 years, and you, sir, are on the current Undead EP and the upcoming album. So I gotta close out by asking you, how'd you end up working with Mr. Bobby Steele?
Oh, they asked me.
And you said
We were,
yes.
yeah, we were at an event together, and he told me about the album he was doing, and said, "Hey, would you play guitar on a song?" I was like, "Of course, yeah," and I did. Yeah, that's pretty much how all this stuff works. You ask, and the person says, "Yeah."
Yeah. Yeah, you're right, man. I mean, that's the one thing that's always kind of driven what I do because I'm not afraid of hearing no. Um, and I'm not afraid of asking the question because, and if you go into something with that mindset, you very rarely hear the word no, actually. If you're not afraid of it, you won't hear it because you'll ask the question. And more often than not, people will go, yeah, man, cool. Yeah, I'll do that. It's kind of
If you don't
mind-boggling.
ask, yeah, if you don't ask, it's a definite no.
Right, exactly. You get
Yeah.
a 50-50 shot if you do ask the question. So your odds are a lot better than zero, that's for sure. And that's
Now, there's
great, man.
one. Okay, I got one more name I want to mention. Honorable mention. We were talking about people on the album that played. Kyle Hughes. You as a drummer, I have to mention. The
Mm.
drummer Kyle Hughes. He played on pretty much everything except for the song Jerry played on. He's the drummer of that album. And I met him when he was 16 years old. It was about 10 years ago. And I was doing a solo show in Newcastle, UK. His band was opening, and they offered to me, it's like, hey, we'll learn your songs and be your backing band for that show. It's like, cool. And this kid, I tell you, he stole the show. He was phenomenal, a killer drummer, and a great showman, and just such a professional and a great guy. And from that point on, it's like, I want him to be my drummer. And he has been ever since. And he really made that album kick ass. There's nothing I threw at him, no challenge that he didn't just kill it. The stuff he did on that album. So, honorable mention to the great Mr. Kyle Hughes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing him up because to be brutally honest with you, man, some of that stuff I thought was programmed because it's so spot on.
Only a few things are. Uh, and you could tell like they're using almost like those kind of sounds. Planetary Lockdown was fake stuff. Chintaku, fake stuff. Liftoff at the end was all fake stuff, where it's just like a 2 minute outro thing. But Simon in Space, Kyle. Moonshine Hunati, Kyle. Chopin Waltz with the crazy,
Uh-huh.
that speed triplets. He was crossing over his elbow to hit the floor tom. He's going boom bam boom bam boom boom boom. I mean, it was insane. That's him. Monstruoso, that's him. Once and Forever, that was Jerry. Anveshana, that's him. Funeral March, the snares, that's him. Griggstown with the groove, that's him. The Thread, that's him. Yeah. He's playing now with Richie Kotzen. Yeah.
Very cool. I got to look into his stuff, man, because yeah, the drums on this record are off the charts. I
Yeah.
mean, and I will put all kinds of links in the video description so people can check out the video and the new record and all the different variations you have. I would just tell the viewer, check this stuff out. Like I said earlier, it's hard to pin down. If you're a Guns fan, you're gonna love it. Um,
Maybe. I
it,
don't know.
well, you're gonna love the tones, right? If you're a Queen fan, it's great just to hear Brian do his thing on it. But if you're into stuff like even like Primus or very experimental music, if you're in the Zappa world, this will appeal to you. Um, it's kind of one of those beautiful records where you can't put a stamp on it. And I love hearing stuff like that because, like I said earlier, I'll be hearing new things on this record years from now. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that you've done this record. And I appreciate you connecting with me to chat about it, man. We'll have to do this again sometime. This has been a lot of fun.
Absolutely great chatting with you.
Great. And
Thank you so much.
until our paths cross again,
Yeah,
consider
until the next
this.
Undead album.
Yeah, until the next Undead album, which hopefully I'll play on. I wish you a safe and happy 2025. You know, make sure things don't fall on your head from a great height. And
Dodge those falling pianos. Yeah.
exactly, or anvils, right?
Mm.
But seriously, until our paths cross again, all the very best to you, Mike. Congratulations on the album, and have a great year, my friend.
You too. Thank you so much.